Jennifer Lawrence has already won her Academy Award and she's presumably made all the money from Hunger Games, so she has kind of a free slate for her new career. She's chosen a dark, exciting, hardcore spy film about how authoritarian regime indoctrinates spies and holds them prisoner just as much as actual detainees. And if you think an authoritarian regime is socially progressive in its attitudes to gender in the spy workforce, you'd be wrong. Immediately, it seems as if Jennifer Lawrence's character has been placed inside this spy school that doubles as a horrific sexual abuse landscape. The women are forced to utilise their bodies in seduction, and this film does the classic trick of showing sex as being on the border of erotic and totally joyless muck. Female bodies being abused and used with the state's interest in mind reminded me of something. But before I say it, I want to say I went back and forth on whether to address this, but I think it's worth pointing out despite it appearing potentially superficial. The most recent slate of Jennifer Lawrence's films has made me believe that she's had some plastic surgery on her face. Nothing wrong with that. As with other actresses, I admonish the system that's in place that forces these beautiful women to screw their faces up. Is it just peer pressure, or some far more insidious reason within Hollywood? This abuse of the body leads to a parallel in the film. I believe the film is making a meta comment on Hollywood's use and abuse of female bodies. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but this film seems very feminist in its portrayal of weaponized sexual and mental manipulation. This is a grimy world, and Russia has a horrific institution in place. Jennifer Lawrence is constantly lectured about the animalistic nature of men, and then she experiences it in various ways from her uncle, her headmaster, and her classmates. It's notable that, as made clear in The Handmaid's Tale, the women from the old world are just as guilty as reinforcing negative societal practices as the men who seek to benefit from the subjugation of the other gender. That's the hideous headmaster's role. Jennifer Lawrence is taught all this nonsensical state propaganda just as she is chucked into the real world where your boss and his henchmen are more threatening than any enemy could be. She knows it's wrong, but we don't know how far the indoctrination has gone. I was reminded of victims of severe sexual and domestic abuse where they believe they can't betray their attacker, even in the most safest of environments, where even the most amount of comfort is made dangerous and scary. We as the viewer are unaware how deep her loyalty goes, with double, triple, and even quadruple bluffs being made. We are viewing her world and yet are still wary of her. We're unsure where her loyalty lies, and the hope that she goes beyond her torture to be an individual. The ultimate country of individualism is America, in which one of their spies has the information that is vital to Russia. The film's headmaster mentions that the Cold War between America and Russia doesn't exist anymore, and that is right. This film makes it seem nitrogen cold, where touching it can burn your hand off. The identity of the Russian mole in one of the highest positions in the Kremlin is known to Joel Edgerton, who is the target of Jennifer Lawrence. The movie takes various twists and turns, making us unaware of her motives, but still quite clear as to what the plot is. To discuss how successful the film is at pulling off its twist, which is both thematically sound and airtight to the plot, I need to discuss this film in spoilers. The Russian mole is Jeremy Irons, who I predicted would be, following the rule that the famous character actor rocking up for an extended cameo has a role to play for the ending. Jeremy Irons tells Jennifer Lawrence that he's the mole, and he needs her to kill him so that she can continue her double life as the Russian insider for the Americans. She somehow is able to turn this situation to work out completely for her, and even by not killing Jeremy Irons, but blaming it all on her sexually abusive uncle, who is then killed by the Russians at the drop-off point for a mutual mole exchange. I think it's just coincidence that the uncle of the main character looks a bit like a not bold Putin. Totally a coincidence. Jennifer Lawrence and Jeremy Irons' characters are both in high positions in Russia, ready to further bring down this scary, scary regime. This is a successful move because it is pure wish fulfillment fantasy that the nationwide abuse of women will inevitably lead to women turning in on the system and changing it to how they would want it to be. This portrayal of Russia as a terrifying police state in need of total upheaval is greatly appreciated now, and considering the darkness of the film before it, I appreciated the motivating and pleasant twist. Like 12 Years a Slave, there is some intense depictions of tortured pain in a desolate, unforgiving system, but its twist and release is cathartic enough for us to make the terrifying visions of a gloomy world that is all too real worth it. 8 out of 10. I also have a podcast in which I have discussed the political news stories of today. Thank you for hopefully watching.